Good evening and welcome to the second episode of Stamp Chronicles 2024. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished guest for today, Mr. Shamil Akbar. Good evening, Aye.
Good evening.
Let me fill you in with an introduction to this amazing artist. He was the chairman of the Philatelic Club of Royal College in the year 2014 and also the chairman of the Royal College Islamic Society in the year 2013. And he also took on the role as a secretary of the Media Unit and Scrapper Club. Additionally, he won the Lalitat Mudali Award presented to the most outstanding royalist of the year 2014. Subsequently, he became the deputy head prefect in charge of clubs and societies of the 2014 and 15 Prefects Council. With such a remarkable history and significant contribution to both Royal College and the Philatelic Club, Shamil's presence here is truly an honor. Without further ado, let us delve into some interesting questions to gain insight from Shamil's extensive experience and knowledge. So, initially, what ignited your interest in Philately and how do you embark on this wonderful journey?
Right, so it's a good starting point for our conversation. So, interestingly, when I was around grade 2, grade 3, grade 4 in school, this was not back in the 70s, this was early 2000s. So what happened was we had a lot of letters lying around home. Not like now, back in the day we didn't have a lot of emails. Emails were just getting started. So we tend to get around 10 to 15 letters every week, and my father was also somewhat of a collector. So he collected a lot of things, not only stamps. So he sort of introduced me to, okay, look, these are stamps which can increase in value as it goes by, and he had also traveled the world, Europe, US and whatnot. So he sort of showed me, look, these are what stamps are and these how it looked like, and he showed me the importance of the perforation and how you should preserve it. So what I did, I started by tearing the corner of the envelope like what most of you all would do, put it into water, ensure that I get the stamp out, dry it, and had a small book which eventually became a stamp album where I started storing this. And then through that I heard there was a club in school, and at that time my parents were also interested in primary prefectship, and so many teachers were saying I think I should name a teacher, Mrs. Mahil Rajan, who was my class teacher at that time, and in grade 3, and my class teacher in grade 4, Mrs. Kumudu Dharmavardhana. They encouraged me to, okay, join the club. There is a club for stamp collectors. And then eventually I also came into coin collecting, but the journey was solely through my family. My father, parents were supporting, and then I was happy to hear there was a club in school which I joined. I up to date remember my membership number. It was 2004/222. That's how it started.
It's a very interesting story. I can relate to that story myself, and I'm pretty sure most of the other club members, at least some of them at least, can relate to the same story. Because my family, my parents also introduced me to Philately in the same way, let's just say, and I also got to know about the Philately club in grade 3 and 4, and it's a happy journey, I can say.
Absolutely.
And moving on, throughout your engagement in the Philately club, is there any special knowledge or special tricks you found out, like dealing with school and other parents and dealing with club members? Especially small ones?
Yeah, as you were asking this question, I was trying to think what am I going to talk about. I think I need to talk about the diversity of the Philately Club. So with the Philately Club, so with each of you mentioned a list of clubs that I was part of. With each club there was a unique learning. With Philately Club, it was the learning of how does a boy start to mature and try to figure out things on their own. First it was myself. When I was very young, it was my father who helped me out with collecting stamps. Up to a point he also started designing my stamp exhibits for me. Then there came to a point when I was probably 14, 15 years old, I was thinking, right, I think I should do this. If not, my exhibit can't be done entirely by my father. And then one day I told my father, he wasn't very happy to hear it. Okay, I will do my exhibit by myself. So then that transition was one, and I saw that happening in all the club members. So mostly there were occasions when it was a mother or the father coming and sometimes sitting in club meetings. So something that we did in our year was we told, okay, aunties, uncles, parents, maybe because it's a students club, we can have you can listen to the meeting, but stay outside, and we got the boys to the meeting. So that way So sometimes the boys are having lunch or they're getting ready for some practices after school, which starts at around 3 or so. And then the boys were not very excited to come for the meetings. But they said, no, as the member, you're the one who needs to come for the meeting. So that grooming, getting like a grade 6, grade 7 boy to a grade 8, 9 boy to ensure that they are groomed at that level was important learning. And through that also you learn how to talk to Mallis in school at different ages, because normally when you work in clubs you mostly work with grade 10s, 11s and so on. Youngest would be maybe a grade 8 or a 9. But here there are grade 4 Mallis, small fellows coming and talking to you saying, Ayya, how do I do this? Some of them call you uncle, how do you do this? And then you need to learn to talk to them. And then how do you talk to parents? They might call you at night saying, okay Puta, we are doing this exhibit, we are stuck here, how do you do this? So then the way you talk to them, all that was a nice learning. And that way you learn people skills. So in terms of tricks, it's about how to manage conversation and communication with everyone so that no one finds you, let's say, arrogant, or no one finds you pompous, not like that, as well as giving them the right information, but within the limits. I think that's something, a good learning that I've had.
I'm happy to say 10-15 years later, nothing has changed. Because like, even today we had the same experience after the club meeting. And
I think one thing I need to add on there, at that time, so I was chairman in 2014. Before that and during that time, there was a very famous connotation to the Philately club. It was called the Mums Club.
we still get joked about it.
Oh yeah, so because I think the Philately club is probably the only club in school where members can join from a very young age. Hence, when even for primary prefectship, parents were, teachers were encouraging join the stamp club. That's another way the club is called, the stamp club, because Philately is a complex word to understand. So that is why we are also trying to get the boys in and trying to move away from this word Mums Club, because the clubs are for boys to groom themselves, right? Hence the thought.
It's very interesting about, even though how long it takes, some things never change, even though how hard we try to change them. So
Gradual process.
it's a process that will never end. And so moving on, and not just about Philately, how do you describe your time at Royal College? As a royalist, as a proud student at Royal College, how do you describe your time?
I think I've even recently I've been telling people the experience that I've had in school was one of the best experiences in terms of learning academic side of things, to working with people, to trying out literally everything you can do in school. So I think I always talk of, when I think of the school song, the whole learn of books, learn of men and learn to play the game. That is a wholesome experience that you can learn in school, and I think I've done exactly that. There were instances where sometimes my teachers asked, okay Shamil, should I mark attendance for your bag in class or for you being in class? There were days like that. But I think out of all the sports, I've at least gone to practices one day just to see how that is. Almost all the clubs I've attended meetings when I was grade 6 to 9, just to try out what the club is, from the archaeology club to adventure club to English clubs to Tamil clubs to Sinhalese clubs. I think you see the culture, you learn people, and something that I always talk about Royal College is it's how perfect of a cross section it is of the real society out there. This is something that hardly any other school has, of the economic diversity, the cultural diversity, the linguistic diversity, and I think that is my experience in the essence of it. Irrespective of whatever achievement and whatever things I've done, moving around with people is a marvelous experience. Up to date in offices, I find it relatively easier to get to know people, to approach people, to talk to people, because of the strong foundation you've had in school.
It's very interesting. And a question similar to the previous one, and proceeding with that question, what are the advantages you have experienced upon entering society as a royalist, other than saying a Thomian or a Josephian? What are the advantages as a royalist you have experienced?
Right, so of course no offense meant to Thomians or Josephians. I think I can pick up on wherever I left the last question. So it is entirely about learning to work with people, but I can add on to that. When I say people, we of course learn with our peers as to how to move about in society. I've made blunders, then my peers have taught me in different ways, okay, this is how you move in society. Similarly, when you work with authoritative figures like principal, teachers, one thing is you get rid of that fear. Normally in society, at least in our cultures, we have this fear for authoritative figures. Probably starts with childhood when parents are seen as authoritative figures.
But then also,
I think that there is a nice fine line between respect and fear. So sometimes people fear authority. So but in school we gradually learned, okay, even with principal, not that you go to the principal and put your arm around his shoulder and talk to him.
There's a boundary.
You need to mention your point, but in a respectful and a nice way where you can have a conversation. I think that is one important thing. So principal to assistant principals to teachers, parents, how do you talk to them, what type of information you give them based on what they want to hear. Do you only take problems to them or do you take a solution also so that it's easier for them to make a decision? How can you build trust? How can you build mutual respect? Those things. And leaving the people aside, another big thing is about handling pressure. Because when you work with multiple stakeholders as well as work on big projects. So the clubs that we do, I think even at that time old boys used to call it, the clubs at Royal College are like mini organizations. It's like a small startup or sometimes even bigger than that, given the money that moves around, given the way we look for money, to how we handle it. So accountability, to handling pressure last minute, the night before the project something goes wrong, on the morning of a project things will go wrong. There was a project that I was organizing on the morning of the event. One of my friends got a current shock and fell off a ladder. We had to rush him to the hospital, but the project was going to start in a couple of hours. So all that pressure you learn, and then when that happens in, let's say, events after school, probably which are higher stakes, you know how to handle it. That way people would never see you stressed out or yelling or sweating, shivering. All those people never see.
Aside from Royal College, let's move back on to Philately. As a chairman and a figurative leader at school during your time, what are the experience you gained as a chairman of the Philately club aside from other clubs? Is there anything different? Is it the same? What do you experience?
So when you're the chairman, so before being the chairman, I think I was assistant secretary. Then the role was mostly maintaining minutes, maintaining attendance and all that. The moment I became chairman, I know you are also going to ask me about my A-levels and how I balanced it. I'll come to that when you ask me that question. But when I was the chairman, it was that added responsibility. Probably what I didn't have in other clubs, which I had in Philately club, was the size of the membership. When I took over itself, the registration, the number of registered members were around, I would say 300 to 400, which during that year went on to I think close to 600. The amount of how, let's say, popular you get among members, on the day of the AGM almost everyone gets your number. And then you get calls all times of the day, getting feedback, asking for support. Sometimes the Malli hasn't heard what was told at the meeting and then the parent wants a download, all that. Then you really feel, okay, this is, you can't see it as a trouble or a sign of annoyance. You need
part of what you sign up for.
You sign up for that and you need to do it with a smile on your face. There's a famous statement in Sinhala saying, no, bandagatta bere gahana. It's not even that. That you see it as an annoyance. You see, okay, look, this is what I wanted when the teacher in charge and the previous chairman told, look, are you ready to be the chairman? When you took it up, yes, you thought of it. And now you've got to do it, and that sense of responsibility was instilled when I was probably 18, 19 years old, and that has held forward. Even let's say at work, you sign up for a job, but then you get a lot of other side jobs. No? Say, okay, look, this all comes with it. You need to be ready for it. Even in personal life, sometimes you get married and you see, okay, right, there are pros, there are cons, and how do you balance life forward? All that learning, the foundation is set at that experience.
It's all part of. It's not just about planning. You have to get ready for things that just pop up randomly.
Yeah, things that you're not ready for. So maybe when you were in school, you're out with your friends, suddenly a parent calls for a half an hour call, you miss probably half of the game or whatever that you are doing. But well, that's part of the responsibility and how you take it.
So another question, I know most of us, club members, most of the club members, most of the top board members, this is very important for us personally. How do you balance your advanced level studies and responsibilities as a chairman?
Right. So now this was a tough one. At that time, it was the year 2014. I did my A levels in 2014 August.
Yeah.
So I did mathematics for my A levels. I wasn't getting very good marks. So just to give our viewers a future, what happened, I eventually got into university. I went to the University of California, got a degree and all that. But at that time, my math marks was around 30, 25 in school term tests. So my parents weren't very proud of it, of course. They didn't want me to fail. I didn't want myself to fail. So then what happened was, when I told them that I am appointed as the chairman, the year before I was in the top board of 4 other clubs. And they are saying, okay, are you sure you really want to do this? I said, yeah, why not? Let me give it a try and see. So then they said, right, it's your future, you take care of it.
You have to deal with that too.
Yeah. So what happened was, I started properly focusing on A levels around, let's say, April, May, but from January onwards I was on track. I was doing a lot of past papers. That's my secret to probably getting a decent result at A levels. But I had to ensure I prepare the second in command of the club, because myself, my secretary and my vice president, we were all doing A levels that year. Our treasurer, who eventually went on to become head prefect in school, so he was sort of groomed to ensure, who was also going to be the chairman next year, he was groomed to ensure that 3 to 4 month period, when we were doing our A levels, he and that batch was ready to manage. Of course, the groundwork in getting permission, fixing the date for Philex, to finalizing any reports and all that, we were able to do. But running around in school, meeting teachers, meeting Mallis, giving them feedback, I think all that was handled by the batches below us. But that required the amount of grooming and telling them, okay, this is how we want it to be done. I think that was something that we did, which not only us, even the batches before us did, which I think we found very useful during our A levels.
Yeah, I think you can divide the work, but you can't divide the responsibility.
Yes, if someone made a mistake, it will be on us eventually. Therefore, we had to groom them, but I think we were blessed by a good set of second in commands. The batches, I think 1, 2, 3 batches below us were having that maturity and mindset to help us out, and that way I think we were able to run smoothly.
And as the interaction we gave to you, so you worked in multiple clubs beforehand, before working as the chairman of the Philatelic club. How did you manage various? I know there are multiple projects there are multiple projects in just one club. When you handle multiple projects in multiple clubs, how did you manage to do that?
Interesting. So I think multiple projects in multiple clubs. On top of that, I was doing announcing in school. So every now and then I get called for events. So I think I was doing a count at that time. I started announcing mainstream after O levels. That was in 2012. By around 2015 mid, I had done 100 events in school. So that's almost around 40-50 events every year. So which means almost every week I have an event. There was one day announcing, I had done one in the morning, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. Which was an overnight project done by another club in school. There was a camp type of thing. So which means I was literally living in school those days. It helped me, the fact that I lived close by to school at that time. But when I think your question is around challenges and what I learned, both. No, so the challenge was, sometimes you have to let go of academics, right? You don't have enough time to study. I sometimes had to forego tuition classes and so on. But you learn that art of balancing and prioritization through all of this, which is very important for future life. Because at office right now, you get 10 projects at the same time. In school, from the 5 clubs that I was part of, you get 10-15 projects at the same time. right? So you would realize, okay, what is important, what is very mission critical.
You have to prioritize.
How do you play around with it without showing stress? Imagine you need to, while you have so much of work, a teacher or the principal might call you and say, no, change this from the beginning. You can't say, no, how can I do this? I can't do it. You can't storm at them, no?
Yeah.
So all that balancing is a very important thing that you learn when you work in multiple clubs.
I'm happy to say I'm becoming a lot like you. I'm starting to live at school now with this work, so I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah, there was one day, I'm not very proud of this experience. So there was another club that I was part of, the Islamic Society, where we were organizing a big day. We call it the Islamic Day. So the event started in the morning, or was it afternoon? I think it was after, I forgot the time that we started, but anyway we were working till night. So we were all wearing the uniform. I passed out and I went home. At 5 a.m. the next day, the teacher in charge calls me saying there is some trouble in school because of the event that we had the day before and to come. I didn't have time to wash. I was wearing the same uniform and I had to come to school again. So I'm not very proud of that experience, but I always talk about it to say that we literally lived in school during that time, but that was a very wholesome experience which you can't do anymore. And that's how you got to do it at that time.
As a scout myself, I can say I have experienced the same experience multiple times during camps and other events also, so it's very relatable. And moving on to a different question, let's just say, as a very successful person yourself, what is an advice you could give to the current board members like us and Archana and the current chairmen and secretaries?
So let me give you blanket comments, because I don't know the challenges you have, I won't know the specific issues you may have. But in general, that I always advise board members or people in leadership positions in school, including prefects and whatnot, is you need to enjoy the journey. Always we look forward to the next big thing. You think, right, from a Philately club context, you look, okay, Philex is coming, the souvenir needs to be published, this is happening, the annual report deadline is this. You always look at future deadlines and future events or future possibilities, and you either look forward to it or you worry about it or you are pressured by it. But normally it is generally life advice also, you need to enjoy the journey, only then the destination will feel sweeter. So taking pictures, to going out with friends, to sometimes after a club meeting chatting for long hours, those things help. So I think that was a nice experience. In 2011 during my O-level year, I was the editor of the club with another friend of mine, Danok, who eventually became secretary of the club. So we were editors. We learned a lot through that souvenir. But something that we did as part of the project was, whenever we collected advertisement money, right, we used to like flaunt it at other colleagues of ours within the club, not like outside in school saying, okay, look, we have money. Not that we even touch that money for any personal gain. It's just to show, look, we have money, because at that time holding 50,000 in your hand was a big thing. It's huge. We've never held that much of money in our hand. So I think that was a nice experience. Up to date, I remember that, as opposed to, let's say, probably just working on typing the souvenir. So I think those are good memories to build, and those memories are what you remember. Even the negative memories, sometimes you get scolded by the senior games master for like half an hour. That is also a memory part of everything. So the teachers who scold us, not that they don't talk to us anymore. They get invited for events. We still talk to them. They're sometimes friends with us on Facebook. So those are all experiences, and I think current top board members and leaders in school need to enjoy their journey and do everything that is fun for them during this time period, of course within the boundaries and within the limits, but you need to enjoy your journeys.
Under that, I think something that's important for the current members and especially top board members, how do you balance your parents?
In doing what?
When you get involved in a lot of things, they ask multiple questions, why you get late, what to do, then even though you give a true answer, they might not be satisfied.
Right, I think this is a serious question to have. Now I think a lot of boys sometimes get their parents upset when they do this. I had friends where the parents have told, like, stop everything, you better start studying. There was one boy whose parent even blamed the principal and the teacher, saying, okay, these are the people who get my boy out of class. But it's the boy who actually is involved in all the things, right? But parents sometimes don't have a outlet in terms of their worries. So I think one main thing is to build that trust with your parents, to ensure that you are always on the right track, which they want you to be in. Because at the end of the day, they are the ones who brought you into this world, so that respect, the love is there. So that concern therefore is there. So you need to guide them to say, okay, look, I have this under control. You need to give them the assurances every now and then. It sometimes might be a teacher telling good about you. There was an instance during A-levels, my parents hear that I got 30 marks for mathematics. My mother comes to school thinking, right, I am going to ask the teachers to not let him go out of class. My mother comes saying that. But the teacher says, he's such a good boy, he is very respectful, he always asks us questions whenever there's something doubtful. And my mother is thinking, even the teachers aren't scolding him when I want them to scold him so that I can ground him or something. So, but it all comes with the roots that the parents themselves teach you. The parents teach you to be respectful, to ask questions, clarify doubts and all that. You do it, that way the parents know that, okay, even when they are not around, you are still following the values that they teach you and they instill on you. That way it forms a trust and a bond. My mother never said, the teacher told a lot good about you. Teacher says, go. Even when the teacher tells, he never says, but she says it with a smile on her face, because she knows
they're proud.
They're proud, even though they don't want to show you because they are in the bad mood because you got low marks. So it's balancing that and showing your parents, in a nutshell, it's showing your parents that you know what you're doing and that they can trust you. Of course, there will be hiccups here or there. But the moment you cross those lines and do something wrong, imagine a common thing is, let's say parents don't know that you're going somewhere out. You go out, you don't inform them. At 2 in the morning, they're worried, where is my son? They call you, you casually answer, hi, I'm here with friends, they don't like it. That way you've breached their trust. Maybe there's a time, okay, by 10 p.m. you have to come home, you've breached it. What I did with my parents, at around 8 I call, look, I'm going out with friends. It might be 2, 3 when I come home.
Please.
It's okay, and they know that my parents didn't want me to drink or smoke. Up to date, I don't drink or smoke, I've never tried it. That trust. So they know wherever I go, I know my limits. I think that's a very important way to, I won't call it balancing parents, it's about getting them part of the process. So when you do a project, even they come with you to help you out. In terms of advice, sometimes they will have to drive you around, all that. I think that's something very important.
So I know that's a very helpful advice for all of us. As we come to the end, I know this is a very important question for you. I forgot to ask it earlier. What did you feel when you won the Lalitatlat Mudali award? It's a very prestigious award within school, and we know how.
So this was So we had to submit our applications for this award towards the latter part of our school. It was sort of a culmination of everything that you did in that year. So it is sort of taken, so my batch is 2014, I'm the group of 2014. So Lalit Aturat Mudali Award at that time looked for multiple avenues in terms of, let's say, social services, to language, to academic quality, to working with people, to trying out things in Royal College. It had criteria for all of that. So while I set my application itself, I was feeling very happy of my school journey, because at that time I was in the last month or two of prefectship also. So that was a nice moment. Then I submitted my application, and then we had a couple of round of interviews with the senior games masters, with the principals, so that they can decide whom to award. And then at one point they published it on the list, and then the senior games master called me and said, okay Shamil, congratulations, you won it. So it was sort of one of the biggest achievements in my school life. Being a deputy head prefect is also a big achievement. Winning this is also a big achievement. But all of those are also results of what you've done in school. So more than being proud of the achievement alone, not that I was not proud, I was very happy and very proud of that. I up to date remember the day that I got the call. But it's also a nostalgic feeling as to everything you've done in school, all the effort you put to him, to send him to Royal, to get him to do this. My brother isn't a Royalist. To send him to Royal, to get him to do all this, to the late nights, to the stressors that they had because of me. It's all worth it, isn't it? And my father was nodding, my mother was very happy, and I think that sort of culminated right. I've done something in school and that I can be proud of. I think that was the feeling that I had at that time.
All those work in 13 years, it's worth it.
Absolutely. 2001 when I joined school in grade 1 to 2015 when I finished my prefectship tenure was a absolute package.
So as we nearly conclude this interview, do you have any advice to our viewers who are mostly philatelists, mostly royalists?
So since you asked the question saying philatelists and royalists, my advice would be twofold. Starting with philatelists, the common advice I would give is collecting stamps and collecting coins. Generally within Philately Club we look at stamps and coins both. It is not as easy as it used to be, especially stamps. You don't see a lot of stamps anymore. So try to understand why you collect stamps. Sometimes you may have inherited your father's or brother's collection, or there could be various reasons why you started being a collector. The importance is realizing why. So one factor can be the financial value, another factor can be the historical value. Then you start realizing, okay, this is why I collect, and then I maintain my collection or I transcend into something else. Instead of collecting, now I do research and I read about it. Or instead of collecting stamps, now I go for first day covers. Something like that. You need to see how can you maintain the hobby, because with social media, mobile phones and all that, people have somewhat let loose of their hobbies in the modern day. A hobby is always good to have because it puts your time into productive use, it helps you with focus and all that. And then coming to the bigger part of your question, what can royalists do? With royalists, I think I've told this to any royalist wherever. Being a good royalist helps you to become a good citizen. It helps you to follow your religion properly. So I'm a Muslim. I always tell, let's say when I'm talking to Muslim friends in school or Maldives in school, I tell, okay, the moment you're a good Muslim, you're also a successful royalist. It doesn't have to be mutually not connected. It is all connected because of that fact I told you, how Royal College is all connected. It's a perfect cross-section of society. You learn living in society. So there was a famous Sinhalese statement that we used to talk. There was a Ayya in school who taught this to us. He says, okay, Malli, royalist kenek unama, dawalta pilaus එකෙන් පරාටක කාලා රැයට cinnamon brand එකෙන් fine dining කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. Right, so at that time Shangri-La and all that weren't there, so Cinnamon Brand was like the biggest hotel that we could go to. So just to give a quick translation to our non-Sinhalese speaking viewers is, you should be able to mingle with, let's say, you should be able to go to Pilaus, which is like a proper street food joint, to have like a kottu, wearing shorts and all that, and then you should be able to ensure that you can match that society at a Cinnamon Brand where you probably would speak in English and don't raise your voice and all that, and match that. We were able to, through the Philately Club, go at 2 a.m. to paste posters all over Colombo, get caught by police. They don't know that we are schoolboys. Sometimes they check if we are drunk, because they're like laughing and running around Colombo at 2 in the morning. To go to the principal, to go to a minister and invite them for the event, to talk to them. So that experience is what Royal College offers you. If you feel Royal College is just another school where you learn, you get a good grade and get a good job or get a good degree, that is not what Royal College is. That is also what Royal College is, but that is not only why you are here in Royal College.
There's more to it.
There's absolutely more to it. So learning you can gain in any school. Even if you don't go to school, you can learn. But you need to get your learning right. Of course, that is a priority. You come to school to learn. But the benefit of Royal College is getting everything else out, I think, which we were talking throughout our interview, working with people, working with tight deadlines, understanding Maldives, understanding parents, handling situations, handling your emotions. it gives you the entire package, it gives you direction, it gives you guidance if you are willing to take it. If you have your ears and eyes and heart open to it, only then you can absorb the full experience of Royal College up to a point. Whenever you go past school or whenever you come into school, you have that happy, satisfied feeling. Right, this was the time where I became myself. So I think that is a big advice. So if you are only doing learning, or if you're only doing one particular sport, or if you're only doing clubs or societies, try to go beyond that frame. Look at everything else college has to offer and try it out. Try it out for the sake of trying it out. You might like it, you might not like it, then you can forego. But try things out, and that is the best way to make the most out of school, through which you will also become successful citizens, successful individuals, successful children, brothers, husbands, fathers, whatnot in the future.
So Shamil, I thank you very much for these enlightening words. So, and we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude for joining us today, and your insight and experience have been truly enlightening. And we deeply appreciate your willingness without hesitation to come here and help us with this interview. And once again, with this insightful interview, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude along with my fellow board members and the members. Thank you for coming, and to our audience, thank you for watching this episode of Stamp Chronicles 2024. We hope you found this discussion as enlightening as we did. Stay tuned for future episodes, and where we continue to explore the fascinating art of Philately and with more distinguished guests. Until then, keep collecting and discovering stories behind every stamp. Thank you and goodbye till we meet again in the next episode of Stamp Chronicles.